In this weekly SMC Outlook, I'm sharing my exact trade plan for the DXY, the Euro, the Pound, the New Zealand dollar, and also gold. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Justin Bennett, Forex trader since 2007, full-time since 2011. As always, all of this is my opinion only and not financial advice. So last week, for the most part, the dollar was pretty sideways, okay? So not a lot going on here for the DXY. Now, a few things here in terms of structure, okay? So this right back here, you can see very aggressive move lower for the DXY. And this through here, these highs through here and this low, this was all pretty subjective in terms of, is this internal or external? In other words, if you look back here, right, there's no question that this was external because we had the pullback here, we had the market taking out internal highs, and then we had the BOS, okay? In this case, though, we kind of just went sideways, very shallow, and then we had another break. So right now, I am treating this as a change of character, okay? Now, the key to this, though, is that not all change of characters, and the same thing with the BOS, not all change of characters or breakup structures are created equal. So in this case, I'm taking this with a grain of salt, knowing that, again, this back here is mostly internal within this price leg. So what that means is that I'm not looking at this over here as this is the bottom for the DXY within this downtrend, okay? I'm not looking at this as a confirmed overall trend reversal. However, what I am looking at is following this right here. And what I mentioned to VIP members was that once we had the market giving us acceptance above these highs, then I was looking at areas like this back here, because clearly this was a massive imbalance here for the DXY, which you can see that for the most part, we have mitigated this. Okay, so if we look back here, all of these fair value gaps back here on this move lower, this very impulsive move lower, we have seen, again, for the most part, the DXY has mitigated that. So now the question becomes, is this going to be a reversal up here for the dollar, or are we going to see it continue to push higher up here into imbalances like this? Now, this high up here, though, and I know that this is, very far away from the current levels and really confirming a change of character, a true change of character off of this high is really not ideal. But at the same time, as I said here, there's nothing saying that you can't trade what's happening right now. In fact, just last week, I had 3 trades, all 3 profitable. And all 3 trades I shared in Discord as well. And I'll pop this up here really quick just to show you guys, because I know how this works, right? If you say you're trading, you got to show it. And these are the trades I took. This right here was my New Zealand dollar short. This was my 3R profit, meaning my reward was 3 times my risk. And this right here was the actual announcement of that on February 4th. So that was my entry, again, shared with VIP members in real time. And I also had an S&P short on as well. Took profit a couple times before the monster rally on Friday. And then also another one on the Australian dollar too. So that also worked out well. So again, I share all my trades in real time in Discord. And if you do want to join us in there, then there'll be a link here on the screen somewhere. Click on that link. You're going to get a free SMC course. And then after that link, you will have an opportunity to join us in Discord too if you want. And that's where I spend most of my time throughout the week. So I answer member questions. I also share my trades live, as you just saw. I share trade setups in detail, annotated charts with all the details of what I'm watching for, VIP only videos with full explanations of exactly what I'm doing, and then also the SMC course. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to this here with the DXY. So again, markets last week were pretty sideways, but we did get a few trades on last week and all profitable. So right now with the DXY, here's what I'm watching. Okay, so if you look at this high up here, what you can see here is that off of this high, we have what could be considered another BOS, okay, after our change of character back here. That means that this low down here is going to be significant for next week. So if we see the DXY give us acceptance below here, then it means that we could get a rotation lower next week into pockets like this down here, because clearly there is an imbalance down here for the DXY. Okay, so that's really the key. Now, on the other hand, if we just continue to churn around here and then we break above this high, then that of course would signal a potential continuation of this trend. And then possibly we're looking for that move up here into these imbalances, to fully mitigate this area. Okay, so the jury is out, guys, on whether or not this is, the bottom for the DXY, mostly because last week, again, for the US dollar at least, we did go mostly sideways here. But this is what I'm watching next week. Okay, so basically the lows down here around 97.29, that's going to be significant. And we do have that recent BOS above these highs over here as well. Okay, now looking at the euro here, kind of a similar situation. What I'm looking at, and again, this goes back to the fact that, is this up here internal or external? Now, again, within this price leg, I would say that this is more internal. However, at the same time, I am still treating this as a change of character albeit mostly internal, okay, a mostly internal change of character. Because again, I know that this right here is mostly internal to this price leg. However, at the same time, that doesn't mean I can't trade what happens here, okay? I just have to be aware of this over here, all right? So looking at the euro now, we have this low down here. And I mean, look, this was a very sideways market last week. Really not a lot to do. This was not one of my trades last week. I was trading the New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar, and also the S&P, which those were the markets that were moving. But you can see that this low right here, we had stops building up below this area, even below these lows here, and then we swept it on this candle. So what this is going to come down to, in my opinion, for the euro next week is we now have a liquidity sweep below the lows. That makes this high up here significant. It makes it significant because if we see acceptance above here next week, then that could open up pockets like this up here around 119. And 119 is significant because you can see on this move lower, a lot of displacement through here, and this is wide open for business. So this high up here is going to be significant. Get acceptance above here. I think we're looking at that 119 handle. Okay, but for now, the jury is out on that. Obviously, if we see the euro rotate lower from here and not give us that acceptance above this high, then if we rotate lower, close below here, close below these lows, then that of course gives us a break of structure following the change of character over here. Like I said, though, that was mostly internal, but that doesn't mean that I can't trade what's happening here on the chart. And we'll see that on the New Zealand dollar when we get to that one. Okay, so pretty uneventful here for the euro recently. Really, in terms of this chart, I'm just waiting for more structure here. I want to see more from the market to know if we are going to break lower and give us that BOS below the lows to target some of these imbalances back here, because there are still imbalances on the sell side here for the euro. But right now, with the market just doing this, it's really not giving us any kind of clean looks in terms of what to do here. Okay, so let's move on to the pound, which is a lot more interesting than the euro right now because we do have follow through. Okay, so unlike the euro where we're just kind of going sideways, last week the pound did give us some follow through here. So we had the change of character. Again, this is a case where this was mostly internal back here within this price leg. I'm fully aware of that, but this was still significant, okay? And you can see that here with the change of character, right? We got the close below, we then had a lower high, and we had follow through. So anybody arguing that this back here was not significant, right? You really can't argue that. When you look at this here, the change of character, lower high, follow through. This right here tells you that this back here, the close below these lows, was indeed significant. All right, so for the pound, here is what I'm watching next week. Now, this channel here, I've made a video on this before. This right here, guys, is not about support and resistance. I'm not looking at this here and saying I'm buying down here and selling up here. This is about the fact that within this new trend, this is your mean. This is the market rotating around that mean or just distributing around that mean. And so what I'm looking at now is this area up here next week. Now, the reason I'm looking at this area is twofold. One, because it's the top of this distribution channel. Okay, and this is about identifying patterns and behaviors in the market, knowing that the current behavior is this. Okay, and knowing that the current mean or average price within this trend is through here. So this is what I'm watching in terms of that. Now, the other reason that 136.42 or so is on my radar is because of this imbalance right back here. Okay, so if we go to a daily time frame, right, let's go over here and take a look at this. So as of right now, this is not a confirmed fair value gap. However, at today's close, it will be. And you can see off this low, this is where that level comes in. Now, also on the 4-hour time frame, you'll notice that we have this low through here. Same thing on the 1-hour time frame. Okay, so this pocket right up here. Now, keep in mind too that this up here is a fair value gap as well. But this pocket right through here, okay, is what I'm watching. So really this area right through here early next week is what I will be paying close attention to see if we do get a low time frame reversal. Okay, so a low time frame change of character up here for the pound. So in other words, retest this area, give me something on the low time frames to confirm a change of character and a continuation of this overall trend. Or on the other hand, we get acceptance above this area up here. Okay, I think if we start to get acceptance above here, even moving back here toward this fair value gap, then that could be a change in behavior of what we've seen recently. Okay, but really in terms of the structure here, right, if you're trying to identify what would actually turn this bullish, really as long as we're below this high back here, then structurally speaking, we are bearish. Okay. Now with that said, and the reason for that too is because this is your external high now following this BOS. Okay. Now with that said though, like I said, if we do get acceptance above here, then I think things become a little bit more dicey in terms of looking for shorts up here. I think you'd have to be careful if you get that because, again, you'd be seeing a change in behavior of what has existed previously. All right, so that's what I'm looking at next week, though. This area around 136.42 or thereabouts for a potential change of character in this region for that push lower. Okay, and just like the euro too, here's kind of the key to these markets right now, is that when you look at the pound, and this is what makes it a little bit confusing or complex right now, is because when you look at the pound, we had this very aggressive move up back here, right? Now, if you take these lows back in this area, right, and you look at this price leg, so from low to high, okay, so this area right down here, if we draw our fibs out from this low down here up here to the high, this is going to show us premium and discount and OTE. Now, OTE is the area between the 79% and 62%. This is where I like to do business, okay? This is where I like to buy or sell a market. Now, if you look here at the pound, notice what it tested last week, okay? So right here into OTE. So the question that we have now is this price leg right here, is this rotation lower? Is this going to be it to where we see the US dollar rotate lower and then this market just breaks out from here? Okay, that is the part that we don't know yet. That's the answer that we need next week. Okay, but with that said though, as long as this is the case, I have to go with what's on the chart, not what might happen or what I want to happen. What's on the chart right now is a downtrend. It's a change of character, BOS, lower high in place, external high in place, and the market approaching this area of interest next week. Okay, so we'll see what we get here from the pound, guys. No hurry here on this one, but if we do see something set up early next week, then I will entertain it for a possible continuation here of the downtrend. Okay, so next up is the New Zealand dollar, which I made a video on this one last week detailing the trade that I made, which I also announced in real time in Discord again over here in Discord. This was the profit from that. Okay, so New Zealand dollar, here's where I shorted, and then this was the announcement in real time. So back here on February 4th, this was my entry that I shared with VIP members in real time for a 3R profit, meaning that my reward was 3 times my risk. Okay, so looking at this downtrend here, right? And I want to take you back here to this trend because this is important. A lot of traders and a lot of people think that, well, why did you mark this right here, this low, as external and therefore a change of character once we got acceptance below? And the reason for that has nothing to do with, was this right here internal or external? We know that it was technically external because we got the BOS above. But the point here is that if you look at this trend, okay, what do you notice about this trend? This trend is very aggressive with very shallow pullbacks. So what we're looking for here, this is not about just a set rule that, where we're going to trade in a silo and say we need to have, internal, okay, internal to external and then a BOS and then a change of character and all that. That's not what this is about. What this is about is identifying what has existed before, and then we're looking for a change in the behavior of that pattern. Okay. In other words, this comes down to context. And what you'll notice is that during this entire trend, we never took out these lows until last week and this point over here. Once we had this right here, this was our change of character, and I was shorting, okay, the OTE from this. So from the high up here down here to the low, you can see that this dark green area up here, this is my OTE. We snapped right back into this. We had a low time frame shift. Okay, so BOS on the 5 minute, change of character on the 5 minute. Again, I detailed all this last week in a video. And then this was my short through here, right into this imbalance. Okay, and that was a 3R profit down here into this low. Okay, so right here into this low. Got out a little bit early. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Again, it was a trade where my reward was 3 times my risk. So totally fine with that. Now for next week, okay, obviously on Friday, we had a huge move from these markets. And really the New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar, the reason why we saw these kind of moves while the DXY really went nowhere, and the same thing with the euro, is because of what happened with stocks. Because on Friday, last week we had a huge dump in stocks. And then on Friday, indices were just rocketing higher over 2%. So with the New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar being more risk sensitive, that's why you had this rally here on Friday. Okay. Now I'm taking this with a grain of salt because first of all, we have an established downtrend. We have a change of character. We have now a BOS. Okay. And we also have an imbalance. Okay. So what I'm watching next week, and if we look at this here from the high down here to the low, you can also see where we are right here in OTE once again. So I didn't trade this on Friday. I'm not going to trade on Friday. What I want to see next week is going to be something on the 5 minute time frame. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because we went from having these really nice swings on the 5 minute, like this was my entry over here, that shift. On the 5 minute on Friday, it's very, very different. It's basically straight up with very shallow pullbacks. Okay, so in this case, it's a little bit more tricky in terms of identifying what has to fail here to confirm a low time frame top. Now, if we get it early next week, and I'm not saying that we will, but if we get it, what I'm essentially looking for is I want to see more structure here. Okay, I want to see more structure here build to give me conviction that a top is in. In other words, what I want to see here is a low, preferably taking out lows like this, and just give me more of a structure, more swings in the market to confirm that we have a top in place. So potentially come up here, take out this high, right? If we do that, then this down here becomes our protected low, and then we can use that as a potential change of character, okay? So I need to see more structure here early next week to identify a top. I won't sit here and look at these lows like this. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and look at this low and say, oh, well, if we break below this, then it's a change of character, or this. That, in my opinion, you're gonna get yourself in trouble looking at that, because all of this is just so internal in the market that, again, I just need to see more structure up here to confirm that a top is potentially in. Now, on the flip side though, like with other markets, you can see that on the hourly time frame, we do have this distribution channel as well. Again, this right here is our behavior. Mean through here, the market is distributing to either side. So if we get acceptance above this, if we start to get acceptance up here next week and we start to challenge these highs, then obviously I'm not going to be looking for shorts here. So really this is, one of two things. Either we get the market giving me some kind of structure up here, a change of character on the low time frames to potentially get short and ride this trend lower, or we get acceptance above here, start to challenge these highs, in which case I'm obviously not going to short the market. Okay, now there is justification for the market to rotate lower again. I'm not saying that it will, but there is a reason for it if we get it. And reasons like this down here, you can see imbalance here below the lows. That's exactly what this pullback was about. And we have more down here as well. Okay, so again, there is justification for the New Zealand dollar to pull back further to target some of those sell side imbalances, but we need or at least I need the confirmation up here early next week. Okay, if we don't get it, then I do nothing here. All right, so let's move on to gold, XAUUSD. All right, so I'm only covering this because I know a lot of you guys wanted me to cover it. I didn't cover it last week because the price action here has been absolutely insane. And I have no interest in trading this. This to me, I mean, yes, volatility is great, okay? But it gets to a point where it's not great. And this move right here was over 20%, okay? So just a massive move. I mean, it's basically moving like crypto is. So for me, guys, this is just way too risky of a market to be trading. But the one thing that I'm going to watch next week, and I think that everybody should be watching this too, is this imbalance up here. So there is a huge void up here for gold right now. And it's also, pretty close to OTE within this recent drop. Okay. And the reason that this comes up too is that there was a lot of damage done on this move. Okay. I mean, a lot of damage, even though you could say that a lot of this through here was internal, all of these lows being taken out like this, it is a lot of damage. And so I think that what could probably happen here, even if this is the bottom, I think probably what happens here for the most part is for a while, we could see gold range between this high up here and this low down here. So in that context, like with that in mind, I look at this fair value gap back here, I look at OTE up here, and I think that, okay, if we come up here, mitigate this fair value gap, we see a low time frame shift, then that could be potentially something to kind of play this range. Okay, to then come back and mitigate some of the sell side imbalances. But right now, really not a lot of interest, and it could be a case too where we just get something like this, where off of these lows down here, you get something like this, okay? And then again, this area up here becomes for next week, the area to watch where you have this imbalance back here, right? That we come up here and mitigate, and potentially something up here in this region to kind of play, like I said, play this range, which given the span of this range, given how aggressive this move was, we probably see the market just digest this for, potentially weeks or even months. But as I said, I'm not really interested in gold right now. It's just way too volatile. I think that there are better setups in the market right now. But if we came up here and I got something really clear to short and play this range, then I would not hesitate. And as always, I'll be sharing that in Discord in real time with members. So if you guys do want to join us, be sure to check out the link in the description below for access. You're also going to get that free SMC course, which is exactly how I trade every single week. And also be sure to subscribe to the channel if this helped you. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.